Welcome to the Good Divorce Show, where we can help you learn how to navigate the journey of divorce with less conflict, less debt, and equip you not to just get divorced, but also learn how to be divorced. Your host, certified divorce coach Karen McNenny, shares her wealth of knowledge, gets advice from other relationship experts, and interviews couples who learn how to have a good divorce, so you can too. Now here's your host, Karen.
Hello, listeners. Thank you so much for setting aside some time today to be in conversation with me. I am Karen McNenny, your good divorce coach. Have you ever wondered what a good divorce might look like, what it might sound like, if it's actually even possible, if we're just sharing a bunch of fantasies here on the Good Divorce Show? My intent when I began this show was to highlight families like my own who found a path with less debt, destruction, and despair. And I am here to remind you, it is one of your options. It is a possibility. And we don't always have someone to guide us in that path, but there are many of us out there in the world who have found our way through a more thoughtful and intentional journey. And I have not one, but two individuals with me today who are going to walk us through their journey many years later, 20 years almost since Cheryl and Rosario divorced, and they have raised two beautiful children successfully through that journey. Cheryl Pankhurst, the host of Parenting Teens Advice Redefined, a wonderful podcast that I also have had the pleasure of participating in. That podcast is dedicated to helping parents navigate the complexities of raising teenagers in today's world. And as a certified coach for moms of teens and a consult specializing in neurodivergent adolescents, she empowers parents to build stronger, more authentic connections with their kids. But beyond her professional expertise, Cheryl also brings personal experience to the conversation today. She and her former husband, Rosario Greco, have cultivated a long-term positive co-parenting relationship that has endured beyond their children's teen years and now into adulthood. Together, they've learned valuable lessons and what has worked and what didn't, and the lasting impact that their choices have had on their family and their extended families. Cheryl is so very passionate about helping parents shift their mindset, embrace personal growth, and create a co-parenting dynamic that supports both their children and their own well-being. I am so excited to hear from their journey. Welcome to the show, Rosario and Cheryl.
Thank you. Really excited to be here. This is good messages you're sending.
Good messages. And our guests come from north of the border today. I sit in Western Montana. They are in Ontario. So happy to have the Canadians. Love the Canadians. Who doesn't love a Canadian? We don't have to answer that question today. Happy to have you both here. Rosario, would you take us back in time as to the journey of how old were your children at the time that you were considering the dissolution of your marriage? How long had you been married at that point? Give us a little context, if you would.
The kids were about 10 or 12, something like that, I think. We were married for, I'm going to say at least, go ahead, 19 years. Yeah, we were married for 19 years.
You still have a shared brain from that period of time.
Trust me.
That doesn't go away.
Yeah, that doesn't go away. If I make any kind of mistake, we did a speech, actually. We did a speech for our kid's wedding. And yeah, she took over because she knows what I'm supposed to say. And then I don't say it right, so she says it. So it still works. Yeah. So yeah, they were pretty young. We had just moved out to Port Perry, and at that point, we were pretty well done. But we tried to do it in a really, really nice way. And sometimes, it doesn't work out that way. You find you're going to look for help, but sometimes you get the wrong help or the wrong people that tell you what to do and how to do it, because they're probably more angry than you are. Whether it's family members, whether it's friends, whether it's lawyers, everybody looks at it not so much in a positive way, because you've ended it, right? You've ended it.
That's such a truth. We refer to that as the shadow figures in the divorce experience. And sometimes we are the ones who have to educate our community of friends and family, that circle of support, that no, please don't turn us into a high conflict, high drama movie of the week.
Mm-hmm.
We're just two people who need to get unmarried and then carry on with our co-parenting relationship.
Correct. That's the hard part, because you're not really trained for that. We're not programmed that way either. And you think you'd never ever, you'd be with that person for the rest of your life. So when it does happen, yeah, there's a lot going on. A lot.
That is the intent, to stay married, but it appears that many relationships indeed do have an expiration date. Some of us stay longer than our expiration date.
Right.
But Cheryl, I'm going to just continue to dovetail around this idea of shadow figures and what you and Rosario had to do to protect your dissolution process so that you would have the parenting relationship you have now. I was just noting that you were married 19 years. You've now been divorced 19 years. So you're crossing over to the truly the extended part of a relationship that has not gone away, but carries on. Mm-hmm. Cheryl, fill us in a little bit about those thoughts around the shadow figures.
I think that I found that probably the hardest part too, because Rosario and I grew up together. We were high school sweethearts. We really didn't have other relationships really to compare it to. So his family was my family and my family was his family. And, I think there's that real hard position that we put other families in, where, yes, they want to support us, but they have to be loyal to their family. Of course, I expected Rose's family to be loyal to him. But at the time, it didn't feel like that. It felt like my brothers and sister were turning against me. They weren't, but it felt like it at the time. I'm an only child. So they were essentially my only sibling. So that was a true loss in that way. And so you turn to your friends, of course, and none of our friends, I don't think, had gone through this when we were going through it. And I think there's a point where, the girls stick together and you get that information and you get that support from the girls. But I do feel like, as an afterthought, that when a woman does this, they stand on their own 2 feet and they step into their power and they break free of something that might not be working for them at the time. They look strong, they look tough, they look like, way to go. And I feel like sometimes on the male side, I'm not going to speak for you, Rose, but I feel like guys feel like a loser. I wasn't able to keep my wife. I wasn't able to keep my family together. And it's a different viewpoint. Like, you know what I mean? So I think even to be cautious when you're supporting your friends, that there are 2 different positions. Is it a gender thing? I don't know. But I feel like that's where the shadows kind of came in, where I was being supported and like, way to go, this is good, you need to do this. And I don't think that was the same situation for Rosario, and that in the retrospect doesn't seem very fair.
Well, let's ask Rosario. What do you recall about that time and support? And did it seem like there was a gender difference through the process?
Yeah, I think so. I think at that point, yeah, Cheryl's right. I mean, I think she was a lot stronger. It was tough. I had support from my family, 100%, for the most part. There's the odd one that, my oldest brother was already divorced and he had a hate on me. So he wasn't the one that I could call on and get support, because he didn't like anybody at that point, right? He was just going through his thing. So I stayed with more of my sister. My sister was my rock. My parents, they kept saying, my dad had a saying, which I can't say right now, but to basically grow up and stop whining and get on with your life. He was very strong that way, which was good. But yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. You're right. Cheryl, you feel like a loser. You feel like like you didn't do anything right. Or now where do you go? What do you do from here? And then you start worrying about the kids. What are they thinking about both of us? And they want to know who did it. That's their main objective, right? They want to play us now. So that was tough, really, really tough, how they played us both. But the nice thing about it is even though at certain times we didn't really not like each other, but didn't agree on things, or can I say pissed off at each other?
You sure can.
Yeah. We still stuck together as far as the kids. I think we did a really good job with that. That was a really good thing that we did. We'd call each other, hey, did this one play you? It's like, yeah. So okay, this one's not talking to me. What's going on? Well, not talking to me either. So it was good. It was because we started feeling like, are we going to make this, or are we going to lose the kids? It was very important that we let go of everything else, let it go, and move on. And I at any point in time did I say your mother is this or your mother is that, or it was always, that's your mother, and you respect her, and let's move on. And if you have any questions, ask. Well, the kids really didn't ask a lot of questions at the beginning. They were just like, yeah, there was no really questions that they needed to ask really at that time. They were young. They're pretty young.
Yeah. But it's an indelible experience, and it does cast a shadow for all of us, an echo in our life. I even hear your heart come into your voice as you reflect back on that, Rosario, right? It's, I think as a society, sometimes we really underestimate the impact of divorce, and we often can be left, all of us, in a cave of shame and isolation about this thing that failed, that we didn't do, we didn't try hard enough, you just took the easy way out, which is usually somebody who's never walked through divorce who's thinking those things, because we know this is not the easy way out, and it was not a quick decision for most of us. It's a very long, resistant journey to deny a truth that very well may just need to be spoken. Cheryl, what do you recall about those times of, again, navigating the children and realizing we better be unified, especially your tweens? And Michael and I certainly noticed this as well, that when it seemed like they were turning against us individually, we finally sat down and realized, oh no, this is what they're doing to both of us. And it's what they're supposed to do. And we better get unified against the common enemy, which is the teenagers.
Don't negotiate with terrorists.
Yeah.
I like Rose, they did not have a lot of questions. What I learned from that is when it's tweens, it's not about anybody else but them. It's how that affects them and how they move through the world as them going through this. There wasn't questions because, not that they didn't care, they weren't able to care at the time. It was just, how is this going to affect me?
That's right.
And rightfully so. I did know that anytime I, maybe was a little bit pissed off and tempted to say something I shouldn't say, I always kind of put that lens on where they are 50% dad. And if I say anything bad about them, I'm saying something bad about their dad. They are 50% dad, and they will always know that. So that was always in my head when I thought, And there's also that, I think parents, and I even go through this in the podcast, a lot of parents try to explain it out. Well, he did this, or he did this, or, listen, you'll never, ever convince them it's a good idea. Never. And trying to get them on your side is not effective. It's not something you need to do. You need to find your own support system, your own friends to talk about it, because you'll just never convince them. And the whole thought that, well, if they see me happy, then they'll be happy. And that's not the case. They're teenagers. They just want to be happy. So I did really have to, contemplate when things were not going on the rails as much as we'd like them to go. I had to really check myself in what I said and how I was looking, trying to just keep that, like I said, keep the lens on when I'm talking to them or talking about them or trying to work through something with them. It was always had to be through their eyes. And, we made a decision for them that they were not ready for. They probably never would have been. But you have children, there's that unspoken promise that this is it. This is our family. This is it for the rest of our lives. And then, boom, here's a bomb. And you deal with it. And so really keeping that thought, they would never choose this. Doesn't matter. They would never choose this.
I really appreciate this language you use about this kid-centered lens. I just had to keep coming back. Not my lens. My relationship with my former spouse does not and should not be the same as my kids' relationship with their parent. Our partner relationship is different than their parent relationship. And I love the mantra that we need to love our children more than we dislike their other parent. And most of us can say, yes, I definitely love my children more than the irritation, the annoyance, the disappointment, the betrayal, whatever it might be. And they can be really big feelings in the beginning. And you also highlight, Cheryl, I think so wise, and through your expertise as a coach as well, and a parenting expert, that our kids are not our therapist. They're not our friend. And when we turn to them, you'll never believe your father. Well, your mom said, what's so inappropriate? And what can they do with that? And this question of why and who? Why did you get divorced and who decided? I would have a hard time coming up with a succinct answer to either of those questions because I think marriage and our world together is like a well-knitted tight sweater. And when you pull on one piece of yarn, it tugs everything else. And if one part starts to unravel, it is part of that larger sweater.
Yeah.
And as you think about that time of period when you were all getting used to this new world, tell me a little bit about how the kids were living. Were they across two homes? Was it 50-50? How did it change over time as they aged? Rosario, what do you remember about those early residential schedules?
Being the fact that Cheryl had stuck around here in Port Perry for quite a while, that actually helped out a lot because she wasn't too far. We worked it out. I think it was weekly, wasn't it? 1 week on, 1 week
It
off.
was like four
that.
days, 3 days, 4 days, 3 days.
We didn't want to do this 2 day, 3 day thing. It was really, it would have been hard on them. I think we did a good job with it. We should ask the kids, but I think we did a pretty good job because it was tough more on Gabby because Andre ended up staying here for quite a while. He had this, thing where he started getting really pissed off. He was upset, mad at us. So he stuck to one place for a while. Then when we had it out, he went to Cheryl's for a while. So he took it upon himself, actually, if I remember correctly, he took it upon himself to choose. I'm not doing this back and forth. I'm not going there. And we kind of fought about it a bit because I didn't want him to do that, because that's disrespecting the other, right? So, but he still, he was pretty persistent. He was hard on Gabby, I think. Gabby with a little briefcase, a little bag, and had the dogs. We had the two dogs, and the dogs went with Gabby. So she had a lot on her plate. I think we gave her a lot on her plate, not thinking that we did at the time. So that was a bit tough. But it was still good, and it wasn't too bad because you were still here in Port. So it did help out a lot. It's when Cheryl started moving that was a little tougher because I was still here. So it was a little more driving for both of us. I think that's when we started extending it a little more. Because we were trying to make it, we both had a job. So we were trying to make it convenient for both of us still, right?
Yes.
But I don't think we really did things selfishly to hurt the kids in any way. I think we really concentrated a lot on making sure they were comfortable. Gabby switched schools, drove us nuts. But, she wanted to switch schools. She didn't like Port Perry anymore. And then a year later, comes back to Port Perry. Like, they were just, they were all over the map. Andre didn't want to go to school anymore. And again, I think you felt the same way. I felt blamed for that because I felt that we didn't give him a home. But they've come out good. They've come out good.
Right? It's a long, long arc. And I often believe how we begin is how we end. And it takes a long time, a lifetime, to still write the story of that family. Cheryl, as you hear Rosario reflect on those early years and transition and the kids having their own authority and autonomy, what would you have done differently, knowing what you know now? Or what would you say to those parents that are listening today who are just at the starting gate and thinking about how our children are going to live across two homes?
I think even to back up a little bit too, is to be very fair. And this is something that's always, I thought about for years, is even in the process of thinking about divorce, one person is always 7 steps ahead. One person is always, there's a nudge, there's a whisper, there's a sign, there's this, there's that. And so when you come to the actual dissolution of the marriage, one person has gone through the 7 stages of grief and is now a little more settled, where the other person is like step 1. And their reactions, if they were to get pissed off or really angry, and not that Rosario was vindictive, but I know some men can get very vindictive, or partners. I think we really have to stop and say, okay, this is what's happening, but I need them to catch up. Even if you take a pause, even if, I need them to catch up so that they're not looking like the crazy ex that you're leaving. They don't, because entitled, totally entitled to feel that way and behave that way. But I would always think, man, I wish I had known then that I was going to be way ahead. And so feeling way more settled and way more ready to move on. And there was some catching up to do. And I think that's a real fair thing that I would very much do differently. And
can I just comment on that, and we'll get back to the kids. And for those of you just listening today, I've got two beautiful parents with twinkly eyes, full of heart and devotion still to this family, and the ability to reflect back. And now my eyes are getting twinkly as well. Because I do believe, when people like who was the decider, who did. And, we arrive here together, but there often is a catalyst, someone who's willing to speak it first. And we're left with this experience of someone who's leaving and someone who is being left. And those are absolutely two distinctly different experiences. And if you're listening today and you're the one with those whispers, as Cheryl talks about, I refer to it as packing the psychological parachute. And I packed my parachute for years. If I have to jump, I don't want to jump. It's very scary to jump. But what if I get pushed out? What if we both are we ready? Can we afford it? What would happen to the kids? Where will we live? I don't know. Do I need to change my job now if I'm getting right? Just the train has left the station. Yeah. And absolutely, it's not uncommon that your partner maybe didn't even know there was a train station in the story. And then it happens again with your children, because now they have to arrive at the train station. They have to pack their psychological bags, and they're at a starting place. And we're all going to be emotionally at different places in that journey. So I just think you speak with such compassion and really thoughtfulness to know that there's not going to be the same divorce experience going on. There wasn't the same experience of the marriage going on. And to recognize that your partner, one of you might be moving a little more quickly or a little more slowly than the other. Well, and the fact that you sit here today and you still have this levity that can come between you, and you both still have this shared heart about your children and what transpired. I remind parents that no one else in the world is going to love those children in the same way and to the same gravity other than their other parent. That is the thing you share. And when we try to deny that there was a love story, we try to deny that any of that deep bond in these children came from love, it really does a disservice to our future story. Cheryl, take us back into those moments of the children and the telling and the changing between homes. And as you identified, your kids had very different ideas of what they wanted to have happen. And I commend you for listening. We often say the children have a voice, not a vote, but at some point they want to have the vote. So what do you know now that you wish you had known then? And what you would advise our listeners, particularly about this transition schedule and the children's voice and their need in the process?
I think for one thing, I would have asked way more questions of them. What they're comfortable with, what they need from us, how they want to move through their day, what makes life easier on them. Even though, you get hurt, oh, they don't want to be with me, they don't want to talk to me, they don't want to, but that has to be set aside, and it has to be, what do you need? Would I have stayed in Port Perry a lot longer? Yeah, I should have. I shouldn't have moved farther away. For me, it was an escape. It was, I got to get away from this town. It's a small town. There's a lot of talk. It's like a little house on the prairie. And so because of my need to get away from that, I moved farther away. And I don't think there would have been, I don't know if we still would have been changing schools and that, but I do think I should have stayed much longer in a closer town. That was my mistake, my escape. In telling the kids, honestly, it's one of those moments, like September 11th, or when Princess Diana passed, I know exactly where I was. I remember the minute we told them. And when I even think about it, I still feel like I get this punch in the stomach saying the words and seeing their reaction. Man, it was just the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. Honestly, still to this day, 20 years later. But I don't know, was there a different way to tell them? I don't think so. We did it together. And I guess, you know, I didn't really anticipate the depth of how that conversation was going to go. I really didn't, you know, and again, because in my head, I've played it over 1,000 times. I've rehearsed it in my head.
It seems there's never a good day or a good time to have the hardest conversation of your life with your children.
Yeah.
And we do the best we can. What do you remember of that day and that moment in time, Rosario?
I could probably agree 100% with what Cheryl said. You know, it was tough. It was hard. We didn't know how they were gonna react, because our relationship was always good. You know, in their eyes, there was nothing wrong. So I think they were more shocked than anything else, because they're like, "What do you mean? You guys don't fight? You don't call each other names. You don't do any of that stuff." We were pretty private, for the most part. We were pretty private. So we always tried to show the kids that, you know, everything's perfect. Life's good. You're a perfect family. And I think we did a pretty good job with it. But then at that same time, because they didn't see different sides that we had, that was the part that would probably confuse them. I was working all the time. I was barely home for, not until Gabby was born that I started coming home a little more. But I was working all the time. So, and Cheryl was taking care of the family, you know, and then she started her career. So it was tough for that moment to tell them this, you know, like it was, you know, everything's great, you know. We were both working, we were both handling the family. We had just moved out here. They thought it was great, you know. We thought it was great, you know. But yeah, it was tough. It was really, really tough. So I agree with Cheryl. It was probably the hardest thing to do, is to tell your kids, you know, we're splitting the family up, but everything's going to be great. Don't worry about it. Right?
Yeah, sometimes we start to gaslight our children, and we want to buck up, no worries, it's fine, smiles and sunshine. And we hope that there are smiles and sunshine in our future, but to not deny for ourselves or our children the really big, unpredictable emotions that can also come. Well, it just so happens that Cheryl and Rosario did find smiles and sunshine down the road. And when we come back from the break, we're going to dive in a little bit more to hear how that evolved over time. And now, as their children live their adult life, and the two of them, I want to hear this story about the wedding and the two of you coming together on behalf of your child. So stick with us. We'll be back with Cheryl Pankhurst and Rosario Greco.
Are you thinking about getting divorced? Before you call a lawyer, call the Good Divorce Coach, Karen McNenny, a certified divorce counselor, co-parenting specialist, and mediator. Karen's signature Good Divorce experience will guide you through your divorce journey, from the day you make that difficult decision to the day the decree is signed, all for a predictable fee. The Good Divorce Coach will teach you and your partner how to get divorced and be divorced with less conflict and less debt. Visit thegooddivorcecoach.com to get in touch with Karen.
Now, back to the show with Karen.
Welcome back to the show. I'm Karen McNenny, your Good Divorce Coach, and today we're having a really rich conversation with Rosario Greco and Cheryl Pankhurst. They are formally wedded parents. Cheryl's also the host of Parenting Teens Advice Redefined, but they're both sitting here giving us advice right from the trenches, coming through those hard days of telling their kids, the early transition schedules, the resistance and navigating a new world with their children. And this was 19 years ago. And if you've been listening, you can hear the heart of their parenthood and those memories come right up into their throat as they recount the story. And I want to take you to another important moment, this threshold. We always say, even if your marriage is dissolving, not your relationship. I'd like to take you both back in time. You had mentioned in our first segment a wedding. And again, these marriages dissolve, but not the family. The family is the family is the family. And there's going to be graduations, there's going to be weddings, there's going to be funerals, there's going to be grandbabies. The gift we hope to give our children is that we can be there together for them and leave whatever drama and pain that we may have come through at the door. So, Cheryl, what was the wedding moment? And did you have to navigate something really challenging, or were the two of you up for the task without question?
You know what? Our son mentioned it about doing a speech, and I just automatically said we could just do one together instead of doing two separate speeches. And he said, well, that's okay with me if that's okay with Dad. And that was okay with Dad. And so we wrote the speech.
You wrote the speech.
Okay. But I love to write. I love to write. So that was a pleasure for me, and sent it off to Rose to pre-read and get ready for. And yeah, sorry, that didn't happen. So when we got to the actual reading, I did my part, and then he started his part. And I mean, the whole crowd knows us. I mean, we were in the same room with family gatherings for the last 40 years. So Rose just said, okay, you need to take this over.
Yeah.
And he stood there and nodded in agreement with everything. There was no argument about this.
Right.
But he, times like that, there was never a question. It wasn't, I wasn't asking anybody's permission if they thought it was okay, or are you comfortable with this? This comes first. And so it was easy to just say, yeah, let's, like, I think I even offered it, like, why don't we just do one speech together? Why would we do two different speeches? He is the best. And I called him this, I think, at another occasion, absolutely the best co-parent I could ever have asked for. So why wouldn't I stand beside him? And this was about our son and his new wife. And it was a beautiful, beautiful occasion. And why would you put any dampers on that anyway?
Yeah, and steal the joy. Yeah. It really is a choice for many of us to just choose a different path.
Yeah.
What's on your mind, Rosario, as you think back?
No, that was a fun evening, because you're right. I mean, people know us. We're still exactly the same as we were back when we were together. She gives me crap.
Same
all the
people.
time. Yeah, she's always telling me that I do stupid stuff, and calls me names. I mean, nothing's changed, really. It's all the same. Nice. It's just we don't live together anymore. That's all. I mean, yeah, and all the whole crowd knows us. So our families don't know us well. So they took it really good. I'm not a great speaker. I can't read and write all that fantastic. So she can, and I know she can do a better job. And I can just nod my head. Work.
Well, the two of you are really highlighting what I call strengths-based parenting.
Yeah.
And I've spent 25 years consulting in the business world before I came to divorce consulting.
Oh, wow.
And it's the same thing. We want to put people in the place that plays to their strengths. And in an intact family, there's probably someone who's kind of the secretary and keeps track of all the paper and the bills and the banking or the medical appointments. And there's someone who is maybe the more activity based and making sure everyone's got what they need for soccer and that we're signed up, and someone who focuses on the academia, someone who's better on the domestic front, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't all get to be good at all things all the time.
That's right.
No.
And when we move into that co-parent relationship across two homes, we can take the same attitude of strengths-based and not being disappointed when spouse still doesn't know how to load a dishwasher. Doesn't matter. We don't share a dishwasher anymore.
Right.
And we can run our homes autonomously. And when it comes to our kids, this is where you strive. This is your strength area. So please shower the kids with that. And over here, that kind and generous spirit that we give to our co-parent. Now, you sit here today, 19 years post-divorce, poking fun with each other, laughing, getting heart tugs together. It's glorious, but I'm guessing it was not that way from the starting gate. As you've inferred, that it was the end of a marriage, and people were in different places at different times, and there's a grief process and a death. It is a death of a family,
Mm-hmm.
the death of a marriage, the death of our identity as partner, the death of our full-time parenting commitment. Like, it's a lot of grief all at once. I want to hear from both of you if you can identify either when the shift started to happen towards a more, oh yeah, now we're just co-parents, or levity, or things that were said or done that really helped pave the path towards the happy wedding dates and the shared holidays and the celebration of your kids and this kind of conversation. How'd you do it? What's the secret sauce, Rosario and Cheryl? Tell us.
Go ahead.
I think a lot of it came to us figuring out who we were as in a different relationship and being settled and feeling like the whole world isn't crashing down and all the fears kind of settle down, and you're able to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel instead of this big, dark, scattered, I don't know what the heck is going to happen next sort of thing. And I think it's, I don't know if there was an actual shift or it was just a real slow progression of us really connecting with each other when something was up with the kids, or, going to events and going to bands and going to karate and whatever else. I mean, we never, well, if your dad's going, I'm not going, I'm sitting on this side of the room. That never happened. Never. Even if we inside were going, this is not fun right now. At the beginning, at the end, doesn't matter. It's fine. But, I think a lot of that is, learning how to stand on your own 2 feet, because if you're not, like anything, if you're not doing the work on yourself and feeling that, secure individual who you are, you can't help anybody. You can't have a conversation with anybody. Everything is just scared. So if you can, I think we both started to at some point, okay, this is the way life is going to be. So let me start building my life again. And then once that happens, I think that really starts to settle things down, because, when people are reacting in anger and all those frustrational moments, it's all scared. It's all fear. You're not really mad. You're just scared. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I did. I don't know if this was right. I don't know what to say. And then you start to see different reactions from the kids. And then if you can put into your head, well, you know what, Andre did get mad for a while, or Gabby. And I feel like because they feel like there's this, they have to have a sense of loyalty to one parent. And it makes them very angry with the other. And then sometimes that takes turns. And I think if your kids see you, not that if you're happy, they'll be happy, but if they do see a settled, logical, someone who feels strong within themselves, it just kind of ripples out to everybody around them. So I think it wasn't a slow process. It didn't take us years, but it did take time. And I just can't say it was this moment. I don't think it was that moment.
And I often wonder, it's not what we do that helps improve the relationship as much as what we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And my first agreement when I sit down with a couple is do no more harm.
Yeah.
Do no more harm. Enough harm has probably already been done in this relationship. So every text message, every email, every eye roll, every passive aggressive little dig comment to someone else in the community, to your children, to the mutual friend that you have, not even to each other. All of those kinds of things are what can really erode the future relationship. Mm-hmm. And in the Good Divorce experience, all I want to do is protect your future relationship. Yeah. Do you have some recollection as well, Rosario, for you, what helped continue to shift the mindset in a more positive, amicable way over time with Cheryl?
With Cheryl?
Well, in yourself, let's correct that, because there's a point, as you were saying too, Cheryl, it becomes my work. It's what am I doing?
Yeah. Well, I think we both, I agree with a lot what she was saying there too. And I think it was tough in the sense of you're on your own now. Even though we were together still as parents, you're on your own. You got them on your own all day, every day. So you really got to know what to do. And again, we weren't taught, I didn't go for help anywhere. I didn't go, maybe I should have, this wasn't here before.
That's right.
Wasn't there. So we didn't really have this. So it was tough, I wanted to be the dad. I want to be the cool dad. I want to be that guy that come over the house, we party, you know, and I want to be that guy. And I was. But for the most part, I did wrong on that part because they wanted to come over because dad kind of let them do whatever they wanted to a certain degree, right? Then when I started putting my foot down, that's where I realized that I really screwed up, you know, because then I had to start getting rules and, you know, you had to start cleaning your room. And you had to start, you know, all these little things, right? But even just, I'm not, I'm not your friend anymore. I'm now your dad again. And I did a friend thing for a while, and I thought that would help. And it kind of did for a while. We had a good time and everything, but I wasn't doing it because I wanted to do it in spite of, you know, Cheryl or to be the better parent or I just wanted to be the cool dad. That's all I knew, right? I just knew how to be cool, how to, you know, have their friends over and yeah, you could throw a party and yeah, you know, we're a pool table. Yeah, let's get a pool table. You know, you want this? Ah, yeah, let's get that. So it didn't matter what it was costing me, right? But afterwards, I realized that a lot of that stuff was not really, I didn't have to do it. You know, I think I did that more for me. So, yeah, that was tough. But again, you know, we got through it.
I
I think
just
the
want
kids,
to admire your courageous self-reflection, Rosario, to, in retrospect, think about where a lot of us fall into. I only get you part-time. I don't want it to just be doing chores and rattling you on about your homework and being the grown up all the time. Well, I only get you part of the time. Let's have fun. Do a disservice. And Cheryl, through your expertise in raising teens and on your podcast, knowing that chores and boundaries and expectations are what grow great grown-ups, and that's our responsibility. And Cheryl, I'm just sitting here wondering as you hear Rosario reflect on that time and what might have been happening for you as the co-parent and how different those houses might have been, really different habitats for the kids and the struggle in that. And as you hear him speak about it today.
Yeah, I have never heard him say that. So I really appreciate that reflection. I do. And I remember those days big time and had to just keep saying, well, that's the rules at your dad's house and you respect them. And these are the rules at our house and you'll respect them. And, you know, it wasn't always fun. And I was raised in a very strict environment as well. So that's all I knew. You know, when we were together, he was the fun guy, but I was always there to kind of rein it in. And then he was there to kind of like, okay, let's not be so serious. Let's have some fun. So it was a balance there that worked. So when you're not together, there's no balance left. You're just left doing the mom thing and he's left doing the dad thing. So I totally understand that. But I do remember you calling me out though. When the kids were young, they were never allowed to have TVs in their room. And we were adamant they didn't have TVs in the room. They sat at dinner every night talking. There was none of that.
there's no
And
cell phones. There was no cell
yeah,
phone.
yeah. And when I moved into the house the first time, because I felt so guilty and because I knew they had all this stuff, I bought them each a TV for their room. And he called me out on it. He said, what the hell? We said this was never going to happen and I still did it. And he was right. I should never have done it. But so I understand that whole, but I just want them to feel settled, or I just want them to feel comfortable going in their room when they feel like they don't want to be with me or any of that. But called me out on it and it was 100% right.
I don't remember that.
Oh, good. Then can you edit
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
That never happened.
Strike it from the record. No
Yeah,
TVs.
take that
Tell me a little bit about your current relationship with your kids. They're 32 and 35. You've got at least one married.
Mm-hmm.
How do they navigate their co-parents when there's news? Do you all see each? I'm just really curious because again, we've got folks listening today whose kids might be quite young. They're at the threshold of either doing it well or doing damage.
Mm-hmm.
And so give us a little vision casting of what it can become and why the investment now for people is going to echo through your adult relationship with your kids and with each other.
Well, if anything happens, if there is an occasion or an event or an announcement, if I get the news first, it's okay, now I'm going to call dad, or did you call dad? Did you hear from dad? Dad tell you that, like, we very much are open communication that way. When it comes to, because they're both off on their own and they have their own families and traditions to create, whenever there is, Easter coming or Christmas coming or whatever, it's usually a group text. And, with me, I'm way more flexible. It's just my mom at home. So I will say, in the month of November, can we get together for dinners or whatever for birthdays? And then everybody gets in on, and we pick a day that's good for them. And so, and I think Rosario does pretty much the same thing, that we just really, again, even though they're grown ass adults, the lens stays on. They need their own families. We put them in a position where they have to choose Christmas or choose. And so we have never, I don't think we've ever put them in a position where they were like, well, I can't come here because I'm going to dad's. Or, Christmas, luckily, with the Italian tradition, Christmas has always been Christmas Eve, always. And so with the Canadian tradition, it's Christmas Day. So that was never a problem. Mm-hmm. Easter is always over 4 days. Like we just make that work so easily. And even the last Christmas, Rosario's wife, Kathy, and Rosario invited me to spend some time with them Christmas Eve, which was really generous and kind. So and all of his family, who I feel really close to.
That wasn't me that invited you. That was my wife.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Well, I was going to ask if either of you has re-partnered. Rosario, you are remarried.
Yes.
And when in the journey did that happen?
13 years ago. 20. No, 10.
Were the kids?
Sorry, 10 years married. 10 years married.
10 years married.
And been together for about 13. Yeah. It was tough.
So were the children still at home is it Catherine? Is that your wife's name?
Yeah, Kathy.
Kathy.
I think Gabby was just leaving. Yeah, Gabby was there for a tiny bit. And she was just leaving. And Kathy has a daughter. And Maddie was moving in. So it was like one was moving out, one was moving in. So it was tough for me because I didn't want to see Gabby move out. But she kind of had to, because she wanted to grow. She wanted to be on her own. She was a Toronto girl at that point. She didn't want Port Perry anymore. But then I brought another little one in. So I was reparenting again.
Yes.
Can I say it that way? Is that? I don't know.
Your parenting was continuing.
Yeah. So I think, if anything, I had a relationship before that, which was, what's the word I can use?
That was good.
It was horrible. I thought it was great, but it was horrible. And it did damage. I know it damaged us for a while because this girl was not nice. I don't know how I got involved, but anyways.
It did damage to your relationship.
It did damage
Cheryl.
to the kids too.
And
they pre-warned me many of times that if you don't get rid of her, we're out. Which was a great sign because I realized it too late. I should have dropped that a long time ago, but I didn't. And for so many stupid reasons, right? Again, as a guy, you think, you're a tough guy and you're cool and all these things, and this one girl is pretty and she's looking at you and she thinks you're an all-star, but then so you forget everything. You forget everything. Okay, that's what sometimes you women can do to us guys. We can forget everything. Right?
It's the biology of falling in love. It Correct. Is literally intoxicating, and the drugs on our brain make us see rose-colored glasses, which is why we recommend that you take time in the dating process before involving the kids. That you are really.
That was a big mistake, huge, and it lasted way too long. But then I was done. I was tired of all that, and I wanted to get back together with the family, and I did. And then Kathy showed up out of nowhere, really. It was just a friend of a friend. And so luckily enough, today, everybody gets along really well. I think she likes Cheryl more than she likes me, but that's because, I don't know, you guys stick together.
Do the children have a relationship, Kathy's daughter and your two kids?
There was some, ups and downs for a while. And maybe there will be again someday. Who knows? I mean, but there was. It was pretty tough. It's but we said it right from the beginning. Our kids come first, period. There's no two ways about it. and that's what causes problems sometimes as far as fighting in that or arguing, because she's raising a kid on her own, dad's gone, so I kind of have to become a dad again, right? And living with us for so long through her young age, it's tough, man. You're going through I think she was 10 or 11 or something like that. I'm going through all that again, you know? But now, because I went through it, I was trying to help Kathy out. But Kathy has her own way of doing things, right? So I had to really watch my steps on what you can say and how you can say it, And for the most part, sometimes I would pick Maddie's side instead of hers. Because I'd be like, well, you're being a little bit tough on her. You're whatever. You're not listening, or you want her to do something she doesn't want to do, But that's her parenting, not mine. So I learned that just to keep quiet, come out when you need to, and just raise them as kids, Let them make mistakes. I did that with my son, or with our son. He was making a ton of mistakes, and I'd fix it right away, and then he'd do it again, and I'd fix it. Yeah. And then finally, he told me one day, he said, let me fall hard. I went, whoa, okay, we're in. And he fell hard.
Yeah.
And he fell hard, but today, when he calls me, he'll call me for a half an hour, sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, and Kathy would be looking at me going, is that Andre still on the phone? I'd be like, yeah, he's still talking to me. Before it was like that, I'm busy, I gotta go. Boom, done. And you couldn't say a word. He would talk, which he still does all the time, and then that's it. And you can't say how your day was, or you can't say, you got to listen, right? So now it's awesome because he'll ask me for advice, which he didn't for a long period of time, because they think they know it all.
Well, yes.
Right. So that's become really cool and fun, and Gabby's so smart. Basically, she's her mom's mini-me. She's very, very smart, book smart, inside and out, got a big heart. She'll do anything for you. She doesn't complain a lot. She changes her mind like she probably changes her freaking underwear, but whatever. It is what it is. She's always doing something, but she's just out there. She loves to do all kinds of crazy things, and it's great. She's very artistic, very smart. Not that Andre isn't. And even Maddie's smart too. She has a business of her own running here in town. So I can speak for me. I'm blessed right now that let's say all the damage we did back then, if I can use that word, that we, where we put our kids to today, I think they look up to us. I really, truly do. Yeah. They're always complimenting on Cheryl on her podcast, on what she does. They're always complimenting on my business here, still doing hair. So they ask, the other time they'll ask, hey, how's business, Dad? Or they never did before. They couldn't care less, So it's really, really cool. I think we've done a really good job. Hopefully we'll continue,
Yeah. Very appropriate to let them have their journey and to come back to us when they're good and ready. And appreciate you reflecting on the blended family dynamic and when we begin dating and how that does impact our kids. I recently had an adult child of divorce on the show, and she said, if your children come to you and say, this person is bad, this person does not work for our family, please listen to your children.
Yeah.
And you are echoing that again. Cheryl, what has repartnering the journey of the day, what does that look like in your world?
Well, I am just in the midst of ending a third common law relationship, right in the middle of the messy.
Oh.
So I lovingly call myself the common denominator, but I would say, that my second marriage pretty well ended because my kids weren't coming first, because I was noticing a real discrepancy. And that was my deal breaker. My kids come first or I'm done. And, when you marry the partner who you have children with, I think for 1000%, your spouse always comes first, without a doubt. Not your kids, not your family, your spouse always comes first. But when you separate, when you divorce, Rose is right. Your kids come first, period, hands down. And so yeah, I'm in the middle of the messy right now, but that's okay. It'll work out. But
And your kids have met the partners that have come and gone in your life,
Yep.
and now they're
And
moving
ordered a
on.
hit against all of them, but that's okay. They're very protective.
Have
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah. And it's funny, they, afterwards will say, well, yeah, because we noticed this or we noticed that. And you don't know what they're noticing. And then you think, oh, yeah, you're right. Like they just are so both in their adult ages, so intuitive and courageous and open, which I love. It's just not always easy to hear, but I love it. I appreciate that honesty.
Beautiful. Well, we've been chatting today with Rosario Greco and Cheryl Pankhurst. Want to highlight again, Cheryl, you have a whole nother set of resources. Would you just remind our listeners where they can find you, your podcast, and how they can lean on you in their own journey of raising teens across two homes?
Absolutely. Thank you. My website is just CherylPankhurst.com. When you get on there, you will see links to the podcast, Parenting Teens Advice Redefined. We have all kinds of amazing experts like Karen that come on the episode and talk about really not just the fluffy stuff. We talk about the really hard, raw conversations. And in there are some resources in CherylPankhurst.com. Everything's there that you need. Podcast is on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, everywhere you can find your podcast.
Wonderful. Before we say goodbye to Rosario and Cheryl, I'm going to ask each of you to bestow upon those parents listening today, regardless of where they are in the process, what you have learned from your wise self that will help others to arrive in a place of joy and delight as co-parents, because that's the goal. And why would we ever want to take that away from our family? What comes to mind?
Well, I would say number one, like even what I said at the beginning, is you always, whenever you're talking to your kids about your kids or about situations that involve your kids, you have the lens on from their perspective, from their point of view. It's got nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. And, you can't, if you love this person at one point in time or continue to, as I do, but you brought children into this world. They gave you this gift that you would not have without them. So on your darkest points and your most angry points, can you just go back to that moment where, yeah, but they gave me this and my life would never be the same without them. So
Beautiful. Thank you, Cheryl. Rosario, what comes to mind?
Everything what Cheryl just said, I agree 100%. And that's it. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's true. It's exactly what Cheryl said. Yeah, I mean, we brought them into this world and we got to take care of them, no matter what. So if you're going through these challenges and you're starting out, I would say, again, basically what you said, Cheryl. Don't look at it as us. You look at it as your kids. What ask them what they need. Ask them what they're looking for. If they need any answers, give them the answers. Or they have the questions, give them the answers. But don't blame one or the other. Don't fight about that. We're pretty lucky. We were pretty lucky. There was times where, yeah, you wanna call each other names, or you wanna make each other worse than what they are because you want to take over the kids. And in my industry, I hear people every half an hour telling me stories about all kinds of stuff, and I don't get paid enough. Trust me, I
Yes,
really
and you
don't.
might be
Being a
thinking
hairdresser,
Rosario is a therapist, but he's not. He's a hairdresser, which is kind of the same thing.
yeah, yeah. So, and I learn a lot from people. The stories they tell me, and when I hear what they do to their spouses when they let them go and they call them names and that, I kind of give them a little pat in the back while I'm cutting their hair, and basically let them know that, what, easy, buddy. Go easy, because you got kids. It's just not about you anymore. Okay, if that person was bad, so what? Let it go and move on, and just take care of your kids. And for the most part, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You got to be careful myself on how I talk to them, right? Because they're clients. But yeah, I would say, what, just be nice, be really nice, be nice to, you know, I don't even call Cheryl my ex. I've always said I hate that word, You know, for whatever reason, I don't know. I just never like it. I think also because I hear it every day that people go, wow, my ex, she's a, you know, and they go on and on. It's like, or you hear, you know, the guy, my ex, he's a, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. So I've always said, you know, she's the mom of my kids, and she used to be
She
my
has a
wife.
name. She's my first wife. Cheryl, we talk a lot about
Like,
language in the
what
Good
word
Divorce
do you
journey.
use? You know, like there's so many that you could use instead of ex. You know,
First husband, former spouse,
spouse.
father of my children,
father, yeah,
or
right,
just their name using the familiar.
correct.
And I hear you both also, and you caught yourself, Rosario, you know, my kids, our kids,
Our kids.
or your dad, your mom, or just dad, mom. Like these little subtle inferences are the difference between keeping a thread of connectivity to the family versus severing it. Your mother, my children, my ex. It just, we don't even use mom's house, dad's house in the Good Divorce experience. We name the houses. Might be blue house, yellow house, might be named by the street or the farmhouse and the river house, whatever indicator, so that the kids also don't feel like they're a guest in mom's house or a guest in dad's house and it's possessive, or that it again further isolates that my parents aren't a team, but we want you to think of yourself as a parent team.
That's good.
Yeah.
So much wisdom. And I know both of you have really humbled yourself today to the things you would have done differently. And so I thank you for bringing your precious and your private story and amplifying it here on the Good Divorce shows so that others can not only learn from it, but also you've provided hope and inspiration that all families actually can have a good divorce experience. So thank you both so much.
Thank you. It was
Thank you
an
very much.
absolute pleasure.
And listeners, reminding you that if you want to learn more about how to move your journey forward in a positive way, you can always hop on to the gooddivorcecoach.com or the Good Divorce or the Good Divorce Show. We're going to keep putting those two words together. Find me. The first hour is always free. And even if you're talking about divorce and learning about it, that doesn't mean you have to have one. Let's get educated. Let's learn how to do this well. And remember, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. Take care.
Thanks for listening. Do you have questions or thoughts about this week's episode? Let us know by following the Good Divorce Coach on Facebook and Instagram at Good Divorce Coach, and leave a comment. And be sure to tune in every Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific or listen anytime wherever you get your podcasts.